Joining me now is a man that has a 22-1 record with 12 KOs on his resume. He's also the number 7 ranked IBF featherweight in the world. He goes by the nickname The Beast, and he's coming off a big win over Rudy Garcia just a couple weeks ago. That's Aleem. Reese, appreciate the time to come on today, man.
Yeah, hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, first things first, I know we were just talking backstage for a few moments there, but you obviously are coming off a big win. Now you've been able to dissect it a little bit, reflect on the win. What's your thoughts on that couple weeks removed from the fight?
You know, I didn't perform to my expectations, you know what I'm saying, like to
Okay.
my standards, but at the end of the day, I got the job done. And
Right.
that's what it's all about. It's about finding a way to win, keep pushing forward, push the bar, kick the motherfucking bar forward and see what's next.
Now, that was still a pretty good performance overall. 99-91 on the scorecards, 97-93, 98-92 overall. It was still good, but you said it wasn't the best of your ability right there. Why do you say that?
I mean, I'm not competing at my absolute best. You know what I'm saying? I
Okay.
want to fight somebody who's gonna bring the absolute best out of me, which is
Mm.
a Angelo Leo, a Espinoza. You
Yep.
know, and Rudy Garcia. Shout out to him. Good fighter, tough. And I put so much into each and every fucking performance, the training camp, everything leading up to it. So when I don't perform to my standards, it's like fuck. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
It's just that warrior underdog mindset.
I do like that because I feel like you said that you pretty much want to rise to the occasion. When you have a guy that's going to be a potential world champion, or at least somebody who's really high up, then Rudy Garcia, like you said, good fighter, but there's obviously a little bit of levels to this thing overall. And so when you look at that, you seem to say that you want one of those guys, Angelo Leo, one of those top ranked guys. Maybe even Bruce Carrington might be on your radar. I'm not sure about that, but when you talk about those guys, what about that rises your like? What about that kind of changes the way you perceive a fight when you realize that it's up against one of those type of guys?
I mean, it's just you wake up every morning looking forward to fucking war. You know what I'm
All right,
saying? Because you know the man standing on the other side looking at you in your motherfucking eyes is trying to take your head off, and you know he's a champ, or like he's that guy. So that just
right.
makes you want to overcome even more, especially when you've always been an underdog. I'm representing
Mm.
all the underdogs in the sport of boxing who've been overlooked, underappreciated, taken for granted. But each and every motherfucking opportunity Raif Salim had, I surpassed. You know.
Mm. As you go forward now, I know we were talking a little bit beforehand, but when can we see you back in the ring? Is there something we could see you soon?
That's what it sounded like. For the first time in my career, it sounded like I'm gonna be a little bit more active. It
All right.
sounded like July 26th, the last
Good.
show Top Rank has with ESPN.
Now that's gonna be a quick recovery for yourself and turnaround there overall. Is that exciting for yourself? Like you said, I know you've had a lot of inactivity throughout your career. How exciting is it to get right back into the ring that quickly?
I mean, it's exciting, and at the same time, I'm like, I know what I got to do. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
can't really take time to chill. You know what I'm saying? I gotta
Yeah.
hop back on the grind. But this is what I do. This is like what I've dedicated my whole adult life to.
Mhm.
So I want to fight the best of the best, and if I can fight in July, great. I hope it's a big fight because I'm chasing that world title fight. So we'll see what's up.
Who are some possible guys? Have you talked to? I'm sure, like you said, maybe the date's kind of ideally pushed right there. Is there something that could be possible on the table for that fight?
I mean, we'll see what's up. They haven't given me any names. I know
All right.
SchuZ Show already fought, and then I fought, so that does make sense for us to fight in July. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
last um show for Top Rank with ESPN, so
Yep.
like we
Hopefully
can
top
really
rank.
make some shit pop.
Yep.
I'd love to put his name on my resume, and with a win count next to me. Espinoza, I don't see that happening in July,
Yeah.
or the Angelo Leo fight because just the time frame.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
we'll see what's up. At the end of the day, I'm gonna show up and
Mhm.
clean fight, ugly fight, dog fight. I don't give a fuck. That's the sport of boxing. You gotta
Mhm.
win. So.
I know you just kind of looked at it and said, obviously, some of the champions probably don't make a lot of sense that would be reasonable within underneath the top ranked branch. So, out of anybody that's realistic, Bruce Carrington is obviously one of those. Would Bruce Carrington be the guy that you'd most likely want to fight if you could pick anybody that's realistic right now?
Yeah, 100%. You know,
Okay.
we can do a world title eliminator fight like
Yeah.
yesterday. You know what I'm saying? It makes sense boxing wise, business wise. The fight in itself just makes sense.
How do you see that fight panning out if you guys do fight?
He's a great fighter.
Right.
Sharp, good on his feet, uh, uh, great timing. But overall, I see me coming out on top of that fight. You look at his resume, and he fought that southpaw, which was a good fucking fight.
Yeah.
That I feel like that was a coin flip. He maybe had the edge a little bit, but that was a good fight. Besides that, who's he really fought? He's calling out all these motherfucking champs. Ain't nobody call him out, but hey, what's up? Aleem is that 126. Come see me.
All right.
You think you can beat me? Come see me.
All right. I
You know
like
what I'm
that, man.
saying? Let's make this shit happen because he can't do it, especially if it's a 12-round fight. Nah, not if it's a 12-round fight for sure.
Do you think you guys could get the fight done at 12 rounds?
What's that?
Do you think you guys can make the fight a 12-round fight for that fight?
Well, it'd either be a title fight or a
Yeah.
world title eliminator fight.
Good point.
If Fulton's gonna move up to 130, there's gonna be some open belts. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So why not?
Yep.
That's a world title fight in the making right now. It's
Agree.
just we'll see. And if not, he's calling out all the champs, and I'm calling out him and the champs. So
Mhm.
me and him can fight a title eliminator, which I swear I've done had about 3, 4 of those, and they never got my shot. But
Yeah.
at least I'll have him on my fucking resume. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see.
Fair enough. We look at yourself, and obviously you're 34 years old at this point in time. Obviously, you still have some good years left in yourself. But if I were to ask you, let's look 12, 18 months down the road, where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself accomplishing within the next year, year and a half?
You know, um, it's really hard to say. Just staying on the grind and just elevating.
Hmm.
Obviously I want that world title shot. I want to win the world title. I'd
Right.
say the next two fights could be that big one. But we'll see. I just see me continuing to elevate, continuing to surprise a lot of people because that's literally all I've done my whole career. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? I came from a small town in Muskegon, Michigan. I was never fed a fucking golden spoon and had opportunity after opportunity. Like, all these motherfucking underdog fighters know exactly what I mean. Like, there's
Hmm.
great fighters out there, better than the world champions, who never could get that opportunity.
Hmm.
They couldn't stay strong enough, long enough to fucking, get there. And
Right.
that's life, you know.
Can you break that down a little bit more? Because I feel like that's such a true statement you just made right there. There's so many underdogs, and it's such a crazy sport because you look at boxing, it's a worldwide sport. There's
Yeah,
underdogs all the way out in Japan. You got them in Europe. You got them in America. You got them in Mexico. You got them all over
everywhere.
the place. And it's tough. I mean, at the same time, I get it. Can a promoter, can people watch every single corner of the world? It's very, very tough to cover that. But therefore, because of that situation, you have so many underdog stories. When you talk about you being a success story out of those underdog stories, how have you been able to persevere? How have you become a guy that still, even though it's been difficult, reached the levels you've reached?
With boxing, it's crazy because it's like there's the ups is fucking up. It's high
Yeah.
as hell, but the downs are is down as fuck. So like mental health is real.
Mm.
Like I said, I put so much into each and every fucking fight, but when a fight gets canceled or this and that, it's like Jenga. Everything comes crashing down. You get
Yep.
depressed, you can't get out of bed, like you get dressed, you're ready to go to the gym, but you sit the fuck down and you can't go to the gym. You know what? Hey, look,
Mm.
I'm gonna pop a bottle. I'm gonna call a little, I'm gonna call a little chick over and just kick it. You know what I'm saying? Or been there, done that. It's
Mhm.
you know, it's crazy, but you got these fighters out here, opportunity after opportunity, like everything. But that's life. It's the hands you're dealt, and you just got to stay on your path. So that's all that I did. I just stayed on my path. I took the keys to my life and my career, and
Mm.
I just said, "Hey, at the end of the day, I'm gonna look in the fucking mirror. and smile no matter what happens and say, I did it the way I wanted to do it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I told myself a long time ago, I'm not going to lie to myself when it comes to the sport of boxing because this is the hardest sport in the fucking world. You know what I'm saying? It's so I'm not gonna lie to myself, and yeah, just sacrifice, keep pushing forward, grinding in the dark. It's not what you have to do; it's what's required.
Mm-hmm.
You know, winning takes absolutely everything, and ain't nothing guaranteed.
Yep.
So, you know, that's what it is. That's what you signed up for.
You know, something I love about boxing is that it's such a representation of life overall. When you talk about getting knocked down, having to put yourself back up, some people are dealt more than other people. Some people have to grind their way through life, whether that be outside of a sport, that could be in the business world, that could be whatever word you're talking
Right,
about.
100%.
I don't think any other sport represents life the way that boxing does. And you just talk about that. And so for you, you're going through life at the same time as you're going through your boxing career. How has boxing, the ups and downs of boxing, helped you as a man, as a person grow outside of the ring?
Man, tremendously, because it's like if you take the same philosophy of preparing for a fight,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a firefighter, you know, you take the same philosophy to when you're training for a fight, the sacrifices,
Yep.
the celibacy, you know what I'm saying, for X amount of time, or this and that, they're not drinking, this, like everything. If you take that model to waking up at 4 a.m., 2 a days, 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
consistently, you know,
Right.
because
Right.
this ain't like you just do it for 2 weeks. I'm talking about 6 months. You know what I'm saying? If
Mm-hmm.
you apply that to becoming a firefighter, a police officer, a doctor, a lawyer, we need all that shit in society.
Yep.
You know, so you may not become a world champion, you may not get that opportunity, but you can apply everything that boxing taught you to still live a great civilian life.
100% agreement. Well, you've got to quite the story, and we've already just barely tipped the iceberg right now. And I want to get into a little bit more for people that's listening. So, you grew up out there in Michigan. Was boxing the sport that you knew you wanted to do? Was this something that came along later in life, or when did boxing meet you and kind of become the sport you love?
Well, I've been athletically on my feet since the age of 3.
All
I
right.
was in the karate gym. You know, I played some basketball, played football. I got my black belt in karate when I was 12 to 13.
Mm-hmm.
Started boxing when I was 14. You know, and I just stuck with it. I was naturally good because I already knew how to fight. And you know, going to different states, the nationals, and here and there, it was pretty dope. So it's like, hey, yo, I'm from a small town, Muskegon, Michigan, and I get to go to Chattanooga, Tennessee, to the nationals and fight somebody for free. Like, what's up? Like, yo, sign me up. I
Yeah.
like that. You know. So that was just one thing. But I got to experience a lot of life through boxing, and you know, I'm blessed because of that.
As you were progressing in this career, like I said, I'll go backtrack a little bit. You talked about karate first of all, and that was something you pursued. Obviously, you became a black belt, and then I believe you met your trainer Terry Markowski then, and when you were 12 or 13, and you made that shift over to the boxing landscape. What led to that? Why did you decide to say karate? I'm going to be done with you for now. I'm ready to move on to something else. Why was that?
Well, after I got my black belt, it was kind of like, what's next? You know, I was
Fair enough.
only a first degree black belt. You know, you there is more levels you can step
Good
up,
point. You're right. Yep.
but it was kind of like, what's next? So, my dad took me to the boxing gym, and I sparred this kid named Perez. He was the best out of the little kids, beat the shit out of him, and that got the attention of Terry Markowski, who's my father figure,
Mm,
and he took an interest in me, and he just taught me the basics. But he would go out of his way 25, 30 minutes to pick me up, take me to the boxing gym, and drop me off when
wow.
my dad couldn't do it because he had shit 6, 7, 8, 9 other kids at the crib.
Sure.
Life is life. But Terry would, you know, he'd pick me up, take me to the Muskegon gym. We'd go 45 minutes to an hour to Grand Rapids and spar and train. And, you know, we'd go to Chicago, we'd go to Ohio. You
Mm.
know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Terry Markowski, you know, and shit. That's the power of just caring about just caring.
You know, there's so many people you hear that have successful stories. Then, obviously, coming from a good background, having family, mom and dad's always key. But when you people seem to have a different kind of story, when you have somebody from another life outside of you that you obviously had no inclination to ever meet each other, but then that person comes into somebody's life and it just turns their lives around. Just those good human beings. It seems like he's one of those guys for you. How big has that been just to have somebody that, if you guys didn't cross paths, maybe never would have known him in your life, yet he becomes this, like you said, father figure in your life. How big has that been for you?
Oh, it's been tremendous. That's actually dictated a lot of the things that I did.
Hmm.
It was like I don't want to just win for me because I have somebody who has never asked for anything, but has always helped me and has always been there, and I don't fucking know why.
Yeah.
Like I'm the closest thing he has. To a kid, to a son, because he doesn't have any kids, but
Okay.
he was a coach, he was helping kids and this and that. But I mean, at a certain point in time, it was like I'm not just doing this for me, I'm doing this for Terry too, like I got people that believe in me, that's helped me. When you come from nothing, when you've been an underdog and you have one person who just says you can do it, what the
Mhm.
fuck? Why can't you? You
Right.
know, you may not be that guy who has the super big entourage and everybody fucking believes in and this and that. Hey, that's life.
Right.
Maybe you weren't dealt that hand, but what are you gonna do about it? You gonna fucking
Mhm.
cry? Or you gonna bite down on the mouthpiece and find the fucking way?
You know what's huge about that is, like you said, I know some people have the entourage, but you hear so often that just because you have an entourage doesn't mean those people are always going to be there with you. A lot of the time, those
Oh, fuck
entourage are
no.
there because of who you are. When you
Yeah.
have that person that identifies you before you're this, that, and the third, before you're a guy with a 22-1 record, a 12 KO type of guy, and he buys into you at that younger an age, how critical is it to have that true person, that person that's going to be ride or die with you no matter what happens, the wins, highs, or lows? How important is that for a boxer, or even anybody going through life to have in their life?
That's all that matters.
Mm,
To know that there's somebody in your corner who truly loves you without wanting anything in return. You know, win, lose, draw, at the top, at the bottom, in between.
yep.
That's all that matters. And the thing is, family can be the worst ones that can pull you down. Even Stephen Fulton, he came out and said after he lost to Inouye, oh, his mom, oh, well, there goes my house or whatever the fuck. That's like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And shout out to Stephen Fulton, great fighter. Life is life. That's fucked up. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I also want to get into a little bit deeper that amateur career for yourself. You ended up going 59-10, if I'm not mistaken, in your amateur run. Then was it a little bit more than that?
Yeah, I was like yeah, 65 and I think yeah, like 65 and 10. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, for sure. That's what Bachtrix had, so I wasn't quite sure on that one. But
Yeah.
so you end up having that career in amateur, obviously a pretty solid overall career. Then you make the transition to becoming a pro at 20. What led to that transition? Was that transition easy for yourself?
Yeah, I didn't think it was anything. The hardest part was getting fights.
Yeah.
That was it, you
Okay.
know.
As you made that transition then to the pro ranks, and like you said, the toughest thing then is trying to find your way in this business, trying to find your way to become successful, get the fights lined up. When did you start to feel like things were settling down? You felt like you got in a safer place. You almost had the light at the end of the tunnel. When did you feel like you started getting a little more comfortable with the pro ranks?
That's when I took the keys to my life and my career.
Okay.
And I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. No family, no friends, just me pursuing my career, trying to be somebody. I didn't
Mm,
have a coach set up. I didn't have a gym set up. Fuck all that. I'm gonna make it happen.
yeah.
And that's what I did. And shout out to Marshall Kaufman and King's Promotion. I fought one of his fighters who was 8-0 with 8 knockouts. And in order for me to get that fight, I had to sign. Business is business. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So I got that opportunity, dominated, dropped him in the first round. 10, 15 more seconds, I stopped him in the last round. And that started the domino effect. Like out of the next shit, I don't know, 7 fights, I stopped everybody.
Hmm.
I was on a fucking roll, and I was doing me. I've listened to managers, trainers, promoters, and that had me sitting on the fucking shelf, depressed, down and out, seeing all my peers, everybody around me moving and fighting, and I'm grinding in the gym, and I can't get a
Hmm.
fight to save my life. And the moment I take the keys, aka control of my life and career, all of a
Hmm.
sudden, boom, 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 boom. So motherfuckers who really know me and see me in the gym, the fitness gym, on the street or whatever, know I'm really doing this shit by myself. Like I'm on my program. Like any coach I fuck with, you're on my program because this is my life. When I look in the mirror, I'm gonna fucking smile no matter what. I'm not gonna point the finger and blame anybody. I can't do it. I'd rather fucking just quit. Fuck that.
I love that mentality because I feel like that's something that's been lost so much in society today, where some people want to go point the finger and blame other people. And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you can do that, sure, but it's not going to lead to results. You're not going to improve yourself. You're only going to get yourself put in a hole that's never going to get yourself out of there. That's not the mentality you had. You wanted to go out there and say, I'm going to take the blame, whether it's my fault or not. I'm going to make things happen. And you did that. And I actually just had somebody on a couple of days ago that had a similar story. Moved out when he was 19 to Los Angeles and blew himself up. There seems to be something special that when you put pressure on yourself and you say, this is all I got, I'm going to go make it happen, things seem to work out that way. Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's like the expression burn the boats. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? You burn the boats, you what the fuck you got no choice but to take the island.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? And unless you're just not built like that and you're willing to just curl up and die. But
Yeah.
everybody who steps in the ring is a fucking warrior. You know, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter how good you are, you're fucking brave enough to step in there. You can take the fucking island. But what are you willing to do? Yeah, you gotta
Hmm.
be willing to do what it fucking takes.
Right,
So
right. Now, another huge part about you, though, is that as you continue to progress, then you start to get the spotlight on you. You start building your way up in all these different aspects. But I have to ask you, if I were to go back and tell the 20, 21-year-old Reese that you're going to be a guy that has lived out the career you've lived out to this point, would that be shocking, or was it something that you always expected, or did you expect even more from your career?
I'd be disappointed,
Really?
honestly.
Okay.
From a young age, like, I'm sparring all these guys, these pros or these top guys, this and that. And I'm like, fuck, I'm beating the shit out of you just in sparring. Like, all I need is a chance and an opportunity, and I can never fucking get it.
Mm,
But the fact that I've won what 3, 4 title eliminator fights and still haven't really had my world title shot, it's kind of depressing. But that's boxing. There's been a lot of fighters in way worse positions than me, and I realize that, I recognize that. But I wouldn't be satisfied,
okay.
and that's the underdog mindset. It's never good enough. You're always kicking the bar, you're always pushing further and further. But I'd be like happy to know it's like, okay, like what I think is manifesting, but at the same time, I'm still not where I'm at
Mm. So it's
or
more so
where I
you'd say
want to
for
be at or
yourself.
whatever.
Yeah, so it's more so for yourself. You say it's almost like unfinished business. You're okay with what's happened so far, but you have unfinished business that you're not ready to give up on yet.
Yeah, and I still
All
haven't
right.
fought to my full potential. I feel like in
Mm,
order for that to happen, I have to get in with a SchuZ Carrington,
mm,
Espinoza, Angelo Leo. I won all these fucking fights, and the thing that's holding that fight up, it's not me.
mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So we'll see what happens. They got to keep winning. I got to keep winning. And at some point in time, I'm gonna get in a position to where I'm a mandatory,
yeah.
and that's
You
it.
said you haven't reached your full potential yet. What is the full potential of Reese Aleem?
Well, it's just been a number of factors. The problem is if you talk about it, it starts sounding like a fucking excuse. Like I
Sure.
have a
Good
sleep
point.
disorder. And like before my last fight, I had 3 hours of fucking sleep. Like it
Really?
wasn't
Wow.
anxiety, but your mind is quiet, but your body just won't go to sleep. You toss, you turn, you get up, you're tired, but who fucking cares? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. When you step in the ring, you're expected to compete at a high level. One off day, you get knocked out. You get hurt, you get embarrassed, or you just fucking lose.
Hmm.
So you don't talk about it, you bite down on your fucking mouthpiece and you find a way. That's what it is.
You know, that you had one fight I want to get into, and obviously it's your loss you had against Sam Goodman there, and it was a very, very close fight. When you look it back, I think very well could have been a draw in that fight. To be honest, I think you guys were neck and neck in that one. When you look back at that performance, how do you view and how do you think you did in that night?
Sam Goodman, solid fighter. I thought I did good enough to win.
Okay,
The problem is when you're fighting another country, I didn't
yeah,
stop him, I didn't drop him. There's that, but again, you're in another country, you fight a 12 round, 3-2 split. I fight that fight here, I get the fair judgment. It is what it is, but
yeah,
you know. Oh, I pushed for the rematch.
okay.
I tried to talk to their people, PBC, everything to make it happen, but there's nah. You know how that goes. Too much of a risk.
For yourself, that was actually my follow up question of the rematch aspect. Obviously, you're fighting 126, and I know he just had a fight just on Wednesday, which I didn't even know about until obviously it happened. But he fought on Wednesday. 122 is his weight class. Would you ever consider going down? Could you even go down to make that rematch?
Honestly, it's like, hey, I'm having a hard time making 26. I'm like,
Okay.
damn, I don't even know how I was making 22. You know what I'm saying?
All
Like,
right.
but like, I can't wait to move up to 130. At some point in
Okay.
time, that's just gonna happen. But
Yeah.
I have to accomplish what's in here before I can do that. Meaning I
Okay.
got to get that world title shot. I got to win, defend, and then I can
Sure.
start
Sure.
exploring that shit.
So 122 is pretty much off the gates. The only way the rematch ever happens would be if he came up to 126 then.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to have a lot of time and still probably wouldn't really be able to make it.
All right.
So
You also say the other part that 130 or 126 is even difficult. So 130 could be in your future someday. Is that something that you legitimately could see happening within the next year, 2 years, or when do you see it possibly going up to 130?
yeah, within the next 2 years, yeah, I
Okay.
can see that. Especially, I get that world title shot. I fight, win, defend. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. I also have a few other things before I let you go, Reese. One of which is that going back to most recent fight against Rudy Garcia, it was on a great card. The card that, in my opinion, saved the weekend overall, the Inouye card. And that card from
Mhm.
top to bottom was great to watch. That was actually a lot of fun. So I got to get into that, though, because you're fighting T-Mobile Arena, great venue, an incredible place to fight in, great atmosphere. When you talk about just being a part of a card that was of that magnitude, what was that like?
It was great. Shout out to Top Rank, Bob Arum, Brad Goodman, give me the opportunity to showcase my skills and just to get back in the ring.
Right.
But it was great. The fans were great, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I just wish I was the main event.
All right, fair enough, man. So I know when you talk about the main event, there was Inoue. That was the guy that Sam Goodman fight that hypothetically could have resulted and led to a championship fight against Inoue. Obviously, Goodman had his injuries, so never ended up coming to fruition there. And the rumor is that Inoue will move up to 126 by the end of this year, potentially even. And obviously, you'd have to go win your fight, get the SchuZ fight, whatever it is to get to that point. But is that the guy? I know you were calling him out a few years ago that you would love to fight if that opportunity ever came to fruition.
Of course, 1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guy who's been knocked down twice in the second round and what, two consecutive fights. But really, even besides that, yeah, he's a fighter that's viewed as one of the greats, and he is a great fighter. So
Right.
every fighter should have him number one on their fucking hit list. Otherwise, they're just a cherry picking ass bitch who should step a fucking side and let the real dogs fight. Because there's a lot of fighters like that. Espinoza, it was between me and Vasquez.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the fans don't really understand. The champ can choose who he wants to fight.
Yeah.
It could have been me and Espinoza. He didn't choose me, but
Mm.
that is what it is.
No, give us a little bit of detail into that aspect because obviously, I mean, Vasquez held his own. He was fine for the rounds he lasted there, but you obviously could have very well been in that case right there. What happened there? How did that fight come to fruition? How close did it ever come for you stepping up and being able to fight in that fight?
Oh, well, I mean, they told me to prepare for it. They
Really?
told me to
Okay.
prepare for it, and it's between me and Vasquez. Well, at first, they just said prepare for it. And then after a few
Gotcha.
weeks, they're like, okay, it's between you and Vasquez.
Mm,
If he doesn't choose you or Vasquez, then he's not fighting. Okay, he
mm,
might not choose Vasquez, blah, blah, blah. He chooses Vasquez, boom. And that is what it
okay.
is. And, I get Rudy Garcia, but it's not like this is the guy that I was training
Makes sense.
for 6 weeks or whatever.
Okay.
That's not the case.
Is that a fight you could see come to fruition down the road with Espinoza?
Yeah, 100%. You know, if he doesn't move up to 130, like, everybody, he's on everybody's hit list.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the Inoue component one real quickly. I know obviously I said move him to 126 is on the table for himself. Do you think he's ready for that jump, or do you think he should stay at 122?
I mean, coming to 26.
All right.
I mean, hey, they hit harder, they're bigger, your power
Hmm.
has to transfer over. He's a great fighter. He'll do
Yeah.
great at 26, but come to 26, let's see what's up.
Absolutely, man. Well, I got a couple things before I let you go, Reese. One of which is something I want to actually start off with in the beginning, but that was the Beast is your nickname. How did that come to be? Where did you get the Beast nickname from?
Well, just over the years, just training in different gyms, Chicago, Ohio, and then Muskegon and Grand Rapids. People, oh man, hey, that guy's a beast. And one day Terry, he was like, Raíz the Beast, and it just
Okay.
stuck.
Love that, man. Well, Reese, I got one final question for you. It's the question I like wrapping up every single interview with is talking about your legacy. One day you're going to step away from boxing, move away from the sport. When that day comes, what do you want to be remembered for what you've accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
I will not retire until I do become a solidified world champion, meaning I've won the world title, I've defended the world title, whether it's at one weight class, two weight classes, whatever. But ultimately, I want to be known as a dog. I
Mm,
want to fight the best. I'm not cherry
right.
picking and it's like, oh, well, I'll fight him because it's the easier fight versus him. I want to fight the best. That's why I'm in the sport of boxing.
Right, right.
That's why I've been able to do this shit for so long at a high fucking level is because hey, I'm not afraid to fight the best.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I want to be remembered for.
I love it, man. Well, Reese, I appreciate you taking time to come on in, man. I can't wait to see what God's got next for you, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate you and can't wait to get back in the ring.
Absolutely, man. Can't wait to look to see you back in the ring as well. You're always welcome on, man. God bless.
All right, all right. Thank you.